Have you ever been in a situation where someone looks at you, smiles, and says, "So, tell me about yourself," and your brain just goes completely blank?
Or worse, you start talking, and after about 20 seconds, you realize you sound like a robot reading a resume out loud, and the other person is politely nodding while internally planning their escape.
Yeah, we have all been there. Today, we are fixing that.
Hey everyone, welcome back to English Zing, English with a little more energy. I am Leo.
And I am Maya.
And today we are talking about something you do almost every single day, but probably never think about. Talking about yourself.
Yeah, the thing that should be the easiest thing in the world because, well, you are the expert on you, but somehow it is the exact moment where most of us freeze up.
Let us start with the very first thing you say when you meet someone new. Your name, where you are from, maybe what you do. Sounds simple, right? But here is the problem. Most learners memorize a single template, and it usually sounds something like this. Hello, my name is Marco. I am 32 years old. I live in Madrid. That is not wrong. But it does not sound like a real person talking. It sounds like a form you person talking. It sounds like a form you fill out at the doctor's office.
Exactly. And the issue is not the grammar. The grammar is completely fine. The issue is the rhythm. When you list facts about yourself, one after another, you remove the human part of the conversation. Real introductions have little bridges between the facts. They have texture. They have something the other person can actually grab onto.
So let us build a better version. That single sentence does three things. It tells them where you live now. It tells them where you come from, and it opens the door for them to ask about the South, for about Madrid, or about why you moved.
Now you have added a detail that makes you a person and not just a job title. People remember specifics. They do not remember engineer.
Here are some phrases that instantly make you sound more natural instead of I live in to talk about where you come from. I have been living in for about 5 years now to show movement and time. If you have a nickname or a shorter version of your name,
That last one is really underrated. That is warm, that is human, that tells the other person you understand. They might struggle, and you are giving them an easy way out.
that is a great point. The goal of an introduction is not to deliver information. It is to start a conversation. So before you speak, ask yourself one question. What is the one detail I can add that gives them something to ask me about? If you always have that one detail ready, your introductions will never sound robotic again.
Quick recap of this segment. Use based in and originally from, instead of just live in. Add one specific detail to your job title. Offer a nickname if your name is tricky. And always leave the other person something to grab onto. That is it. That is the whole formula.
And honestly, that formula works in almost every context. A party, a class, a video call, a job interview. The detail might change, but the structure stays exactly the same.
Okay, let us move to the next big topic, the job or studies question. It comes up everywhere, and the answers learners give are almost always too short or too vague. End of sentence. Silence. Awkward pause.
The fix is to add two things to your answer: what you actually do and how you feel about it. Those two additions turn a dead end sentence into a story. So instead of I work in marketing, you might say I work in marketing mostly on the social media side of things.
Or instead of, I am a student, try, I am studying economics second year. That last bit makes people smile. It is specific and self aware.
Let us give people a set of phrases they can plug into their own answers. Is the classic, but you can upgrade it.
And then add the feeling part.
That last one is really important. You do not have to pretend you love your job or your studies. Real people complain a little. Real people have mixed feelings. Saying, I like most of it, but the commute is killing me, makes you sound like a human being, not a job applicant on their best behavior.
And here is a pro tip if you are between jobs or you are looking for work. Do not be afraid to say it. I am actually between roles. Right now, that is confident. That is clear. And it gives the other person a chance to be helpful, which most people genuinely love.
Let us do another role play. This time, imagine you are at a friend's birthday dinner and you sit next to someone you do not know. They ask what you do.
So, what do you do?
I am a software developer. I build apps for small businesses, mostly booking systems for salons and clinics. It sounds niche, but it is actually really fun because I get to talk to the owners and figure out exactly what they need.
Oh, that is interesting. Do you work for a company or are you on your own?
That last one is really important. You do not have to pretend you love your job or your studies. Real people complain a little. Real people have mixed feelings, saying I like most of it, but the commute is killing me. Makes you sound like a human being, not a job applicant on their best behavior.
And here is a pro tip if you are between jobs or you are looking for work, do not be afraid to say it. I am actually between roles right now. That is confident, that is clear, and it gives the other person a chance to be helpful, which most people genuinely love.
Let us do another role play. This time, imagine you are at a friend's birthday dinner and you sit next to someone you do not know. They ask what you do.
So, what do you do?
I am a software developer. I build apps for small businesses, mostly booking systems for salons and clinics. It sounds niche, but it is actually really fun because I get to talk to the owners and figure out exactly what they need.
Oh, that is interesting. Do you work for a company or are you on your own?
I am freelance, so a bit of both. I have a few regular clients and then I take on smaller projects in between. The freedom is great, but I do miss having coworkers sometimes.
And there you go. In about 60 seconds, Leo mentioned his job, his specialty, why he likes it, his work setup, and even a small downside. That is a full real answer. Nothing robotic about it.
The trick is to layer. Start with a headline, then add a detail, then add a feeling. 3 layers. I am a software developer is the headline. I build booking systems for salons is the detail. It is fun because I get to talk to owners is the feeling. 3 sentences. That is all it takes.
And if you are a student, the same layering works. I am studying psychology. I focus mostly on child development. Headline, detail, feeling. Done.
One more thing. Avoid jargon. If you work in a technical field, do not assume the other person knows the acronyms. I work in B2B. SaaS means nothing to most people. I help companies find software for their teams means something to everyone. Plain language always wins.
Exactly. Confidence does not come from using big words. It comes from being clear. If you can explain your job to a 12-year-old, you can explain it to anyone at a dinner party.
Now we get to the tricky one, personality. This is where most learners either go too generic or too dramatic. That is a resume. No one talks like that at a party. On the other end, I am a deeply creative soul who sees the world through a lens of curiosity is a bit much for a Tuesday afternoon. Now we get to the tricky one, personality. This is where most learners either go too generic or too dramatic. That is a resume. No one talks like that at a party. On the other end, I am a deeply creative soul who sees the world through a lens of curiosity is a bit much for a Tuesday afternoon.
The secret to describing your personality in English is to use behavior instead of adjectives. Do not say I am patient. See the difference? The second one tells a tiny story. It is specific, it is believable, and it actually means something.
And instead of I am funny, try I like to keep things light, even when the situation is serious. That is a much more honest and interesting way to say the same thing. Plus, it shows self awareness, which is something people genuinely.
Let us give people a toolkit of phrases. Is a softer, more natural way to start than I am. Describes behavior without sounding like a personality test result. Let us other people do the complimenting for you.
Is perfect for contrasting two types. Those constructions sound native because they acknowledge that personality is not black and white. Real people are walking contradictions.
And here is something important. It is okay to admit weaknesses. In fact, it makes you more likable. That is charming. That is real. People trust someone who can laugh at themselves a little.
Avoid the obvious cliches. Hardworking, team player, people person. They have been so overused that they have lost all meaning. Specificity is what makes it land.
Let us roleplay this. Leo, imagine we are at a team building event and we have been paired up for one of those get to know your coworker exercises.
All right. So, Maya, how would your friends describe you?
Oh, that is a good question. I think they would say I am the one who organizes everything. I am a natural planner. If T here is a trip, I am the one with the spreadsheet. But they would also probably say I talk too much once I have had coffee.
That is a perfect answer. You gave a strength, a behavior that proves it, and then a funny little flaw. It feels real. Okay, my turn. I think my friends will say I am calm. Maybe too calm. I am the person they call when something goes wrong because they know I will not panic. The downside is I sometimes come across as uninterested, even when I am really engaged.
And that is exactly the kind of answer that makes someone want to keep talking to you. Because you did not just list adjectives. You showed them who you are through tiny stories.
One more technique. If you are not sure how to describe yourself, think about the role you play in your friend group or your family. Are you the planner, the listener, the one who always has a weird fact, the one who remembers everyone's birthday? Those roles tell you more about your personality than any list of adjectives.
That is so true. I am definitely the remembers. Everyone is birthday person, It is not because I am unusually thoughtful, it is just because I have a weird memory for dates. But people remember that about me, and it becomes part of how they see me.
Personality is not a list of traits. It is a pattern of behaviors. When you describe the pattern instead of the trait, you sound authentic. You sound like someone who actually knows themselves, which is one of the most attractive qualities a person can have in any conversation.
So, to recap this segment, use behavior, not just adjectives. Use I would say, I am, and I tend to, and I am more of a to soften your claims. Admit a small flaw, avoid the overused words, and think about the role you play in your groups. That is how you talk about personality, like a real person. Hobbies. This should be the easiest part of any conversation, but somehow it is where people go the most boring. Congratulations. You have just described every human on Earth.
The problem is that learners treat hobbies as a checklist. They list categories instead of talking about the actual thing they love. I like music tells me nothing. I have been getting really into jazz lately. Especially the old stuff from the 50s tells me a whole story about who you are.
Right, the fix is to go from category to specific to feeling. That is specific, that is a little funny, and it tells me exactly what kind of person you are.
Let us give people some phrases to work with. It's more natural than I like, suggests something new, which is a great conversation starter, shows enthusiasm. Is perfect for something addictive, like a show or a podcast.
Is a great way to talk about hobbies without listing them. That paints a picture. It is a tiny window into your actual life.
It's a softer way to talk about a current interest. I have been spending a lot of time lately trying to learn the guitar. That last part, the self-deprecating bit, is gold. It makes you instantly likable.
And do not be afraid of unusual hobbies. Sometimes the weirdest ones are the best conversation starters. I collect vintage maps is way more interesting than I read books. Even if the other person does not know anything about vintage maps, they will ask you about it. Curiosity is a natural human response.
If you do not have a hobby you are passionate about, that is fine too. You can talk about what you are curious about right now. I do not have a real hobby, to be honest, but I have been really curious about photography lately. That is honest, and it still gives the other person something to engage with.
Let us role play. We are at a cafe, and we have just started chatting.
So, what do you like to do when you are not working?
Honestly, I have been getting really into baking lately. I tried to make croissants last weekend and it was a total disaster, but I am hooked. To hear is something satisfying about the whole process, even when it fails.
Oh, I respect anyone who tries croissants. Those things are brutal. I tried once and gave up after the second fold. What I am really into these days is bouldering. It is basically climbing short walls without ropes. It sounds scary, but it is actually super relaxing. You just focus on the next move and nothing else.
See, that is a perfect exchange. We both shared something specific. We both admitted a small struggle, and we both gave the other person an opening to ask more. The conversation just keeps going.
One thing to avoid: do not apologize for your hobbies. Do not do that. If you enjoy it, own it. Passion is interesting, even if the hobby itself is not mainstream.
Exactly. Enthusiasm is the magnet, not the topic itself.
And if you share a hobby with the other person, lean into it. Oh, you run too. That is how you turn small talk into real connection. The hobby becomes the bridge.
Quick recap, go from category to specific to feeling. Use really into and been getting into instead of like, admit a small struggle. Do not apologize for your interests. And remember that enthusiasm matters more than the topic itself.
And if all else fails, just talk about what you are curious about this week. Curiosity is its own kind of hobby. Now we get to the question that makes everyone sweat. It shows up in job interviews, in networking events, sometimes even on first dates, and the answer changes completely depending on the context.
Yeah, this is a big one. Let us break it into two versions, the interview version and the casual version. They sound different, they have different goals, and if you mix them up, things get weird really fast.
Interview version first. The structure here is present, past, future. You start with where you are now. You give a quick highlight of how you got there, and you end with where you want to go. It is a tight 2-minute story with a clear shape.
Here is an example. Right now, I am working as a marketing coordinator at a small tech company where I handle our social media and email campaigns. Before that, I studied communications in college and interned at a local news station, which is where I fell in love with storytelling.
Notice how clean that is. 3 sentences, 3 time periods. No rambling. The interviewer knows exactly who you are and why you are sitting in front of them.
The biggest mistake in interviews is oversharing. The interviewer does not need to know about your dog. They want to know if you can do the job. Keep it professional but still human.
Now the casual version. This is what you say at a party, on a date, or when you meet a friend of a friend. Here, the structure is looser. You lead with something personal. You add a detail, and you leave room for them to jump in.
Casual example, I am Maya. I have been living in Lisbon for about a year now. I work in design, which I love, but honestly, my favorite part of the week is just wandering around the city with no plan.
That is 4 sentences covering where you live, what you do, what you love, and where you are from. But it does not feel like a list. Every detail is an invitation. The conversation is already half started.
The mistake in casual settings is the opposite of the interview mistake. People go too short. That is it. The other person has nothing to work with. You are basically making them do all the heavy lifting.
Right. In casual settings, your job is to give the other person 3 or 4 hooks. Where you live, what you do, what you enjoy, where you are from. Pick whichever. Feel natural. You do not need all 4 every time, but you need at least 2.
Let us do two quick role plays back to back. First, the interview version.
So, Maya, tell me a little about yourself.
Sure. I am currently a project manager at a small design studio where I oversee client work and help keep our team on track. Before that, I worked in events for about 4 years, which taught me how to stay calm under pressure. I am looking for a role now where I can take on bigger, longer term projects, which is what excited me about this position.
That is clean, professional, done in under a minute. Now the casual version, we have just been introduced at a dinner party.
Hey, nice to meet you. I am Maya.
Hey, I am Leo. So, what is your story?
Oh, my story. Let us see. I moved here about a year ago for work. I am in design, mostly branding stuff. I am still discovering the city, to be honest, but I have become slightly obsessed with the food scene. I had the best pasta of my life last week, and I am still thinking about it.
And right away, the conversation had somewhere to go. We can talk about food, about moving cities, about design. The interview version closed doors, the casual version opened them. Same person, same life, totally different answer.
And that is the key insight. The question, tell me about yourself, is not a fixed script. It is a question shaped by the room you are in. Read the room, match the energy, and always have a version of your answer ready for both contexts.
So to recap this segment, interview version is present, past, future, 2 minutes max, focused on work. Casual version is personal, detail, and full of hooks. Do not overshare in interviews. Do not undershare in casual settings. And practice both versions out loud until they feel natural.
Alright, let us get into the mistakes. Even if you know all the right phrases, there are classic traps learners fall into. We are going to call them out so you can catch yourself.
Mistake number 1, memorizing a script word for word. Someone writes down their introduction, learns it like a poem, and recites it. The problem is, conversations are not poems. The other person might interrupt or ask a follow-up, and you are stuck trying to get back to your script.
The fix is to memorize the structure, not the words. Know your 3 layers: name, context, detail, or headline. Detail, feeling. Once you know the structure, you can fill in the words naturally in the moment.
Mistake number 2, apologizing for your English. Please stop. Your English is probably better than you think, and you're drawing attention to the thing you are insecure about. The other person does not care, they just want a conversation.
The fix is to just talk. If you make a mistake, keep going. If you need a word, describe it instead of stopping. The thing you use to people will help you, and you say yes, exactly, and move on. That is a normal conversation, not a failure.
Mistake number 3, translating directly from your first language. Some phrases just do not travel well. I am passionate about my work. Sounds like a cover letter, same feeling, different rhythm.
The fix is to consume a lot of natural English podcasts, television shows, YouTube, conversations with native speakers. The more you hear how real people talk, the more you will naturally pick up the rhythm and the phrases that do not translate word for word.
Mistake number 4, oversharing too early. This is especially common in casual settings. You meet someone for the first time, and within 5 minutes, you are telling them about your recent breakup, your health issues, your complicated family situation. That is too much, too fast.
The fix is the rule of small steps. Share a little, see how the other person reacts. Then decide if you want to share a little more. If they lean in and ask follow-up questions, great. Go deeper. If they change the subject, follow them. Read the room. Conversations are dances, not monologues.
Mistake number 5, undersharing out of fear. The opposite problem. You are so worried about saying the wrong thing that you say almost nothing. Silence. The other person tries to ask more. Oh, cool. Silence. Eventually, they give up.
The fix is to always have a follow-up sentence ready. Whatever you say, add one more layer. I am a student. Economics, second year. That is 3 layers in one breath. The other person has something to react to. You are not making them work so hard.
Mistake number 6. Speaking too fast. When learners are nervous, they speed up. They want to get the words out before they forget them. But fast speech is hard to understand, and it makes you sound more nervous than you actually are.
The fix is to slow down on purpose. Take a breath between sentences. Pause before you answer a question. A short silence feels confident, not awkward. Native speakers pause all the time. Watch any good speaker, and you will see they use silence as a tool, not as a failure.
And the last mistake, which is really the umbrella over all of these, trying to sound impressive instead of trying to connect. When you focus on impressing someone, you tighten up. You use bigger words than you need. You list achievements instead of telling stories. The other person can feel the performance and it creates distance.
The fix is to make connection your goal. When you shift to connection, everything else falls into place. You speak more naturally, you share the right amount, you listen better. You become someone people actually want to talk to.
So to recap this segment, do not memorize scripts. Memorize structures. Do not apologize for your English. Do not translate word for word. Do not overshare or undershare. Do not speed up when you are nervous. And above all, aim to connect, not to impress. Avoid these, and you will sound more natural than 90% of speakers out there. Native or not, now we are going to put it all together. Imagine you are at a community event, maybe a language exchange meetup, and someone says, "Hey, I do not think we have met." Here is what a full, natural, confident answer sounds like, using everything we have covered in this episode.
Sure, I will go. Hi, I am Maya. I am originally from a small town near Toronto, but I have been living in Lisbon for about a year now. I moved here for work, but honestly, the weather was a big part of it too. Canadian winters are no joke.
And there it is, identity, location, work, personality, hobbies, all in one natural flow. Notice how it does not feel like a list. Each section blends into the next one. Here is a small downside mentioned about freelance life. Here is a self-aware joke about being a planner. Here is a humble bit about learning Portuguese. It is a real person talking, not a resume.
And the whole thing took about a minute and a half to say. That is the sweet spot. Long enough to give the other person a real sense of who you are. Short enough that they do not zone out. And it ends with a question, which is the most important part. You always hand the conversation back.
So if you want to practice, try writing your own version of that introduction. Identity, location, work with a small downside, personality with a tiny story, hobbies with one specific detail, and a closing question. Read it out loud. Tweak it until it sounds like you, not like a script. Then try saying it without looking at the paper. That is when you know it is really yours.
And remember, you do not have to include all 5 pieces every time. Some days you lead with work, some days you lead with a hobby. It depends on the context and the person. The structure is a safety net, not a cage. Once you know the structure, you can bend it, break it, play with it.
Exactly. The goal is to have a flexible answer, not a fixed one. Flexibility is what makes you sound natural. Rigidity is what makes you sound rehearsed. Okay, time for the recap. Here are 10 phrases from today's episode that you can start using right away.
Number 1, I am based in a natural way to talk about where you live and where you come from in one breath.
Number 2, use this when offering a nickname or a simpler version of your name.
Number 3, great for describing what you actually do at work beyond just your job title.
Number 4, a softer, more natural way to describe your personality than I am.
Number 5, I am more of a perfect for contrasting two sides of yourself, like planner versus spontaneous.
Number 6, let other people do the complimenting for you.
Number 7, use this for new hobbies or interests. It shows you are still learning and exploring.
Number 8, a simple, warm way to talk about your free time without listing hobbies.
Number 9, right now I am. Before that, the present, past, future structure for the interview version of tell me about yourself.
Number 10, so that is me, the closing line that hands the conversation back. Never forget this one.
Pick 2 or 3 of these to practice this week. Try them out in real conversations. The more you use them, the more natural they will feel.
And do not try to use all 10 at once. That would sound ridiculous. Pick the ones that fit the moment. The goal is not to use every phrase, it is to have them available, so the right one shows up when you need it.
Exactly, phrases are tools. You do not use every tool in the toolbox every time. You reach for the one that fits the job.
That is it for today's episode of English Zing. If you want more, hit subscribe so you do not miss next week's episode, where we will be talking about how to keep a conversation going when you run out of things to say. Yes, here is a technique for that. And yes, it works in any language.
And if you want to practice what we covered today, try recording yourself doing the full self-introduction from the bonus segment. Listen back, tweak a phrase or two, and record it again. You will be amazed at how fast you improve when you actually hear yourself.
You can also find us on Instagram and YouTube, where we post extra tips and mini lessons every week. Drop a comment with your own introduction. We read every single one, and we might even feature yours in a future episode.
And remember, talking about yourself is not about being impressive. It is about being real. Be real, be specific, and the rest will follow. See you next time.
See you next time. This has been English Zing. Keep talking.